Tony, we're small enough now. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah, please.
Wait, what's that?
Why don't you introduce yourself? We got a small enough group this time. Have yourself introduce just who you are. Obviously I've known you for a while, but these two guys don't. So I'd love for you to introduce yourself and what you do.
Yeah, totally. So I'm Tony. Pat moved to my little small town in central New York. That's basically turning into nothing. But it's a little town called Norwich, and we played football together growing up. We did track and field together, and we were really good friends throughout the high school years. And then I moved up to Lake Placid area, which I'm currently at right now. And I work at this little tiny resort, only 11 rooms. It's a 5-star property, little luxury resort. It's been accredited to being one of the best resorts hotels in the world. So I'm super fortunate to work for a team that's really progressive, really hard workers, and we love what we do, and everybody's motivated every day. So great team, great atmosphere. We work hard, and so I'm doing that. I manage the show there, run the show there, and I'm also starting a little clothing brand on the side. And that's kind of my personal endeavor, which I'm hoping that this will actually help me kind of get a couple more tools in my toolbox to really push that and drive that forward a lot quicker than I would like. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell. I love to be active. I do Ironman. I've done 8 so far, and I plan on doing them continuously. So that's me.
That's impressive, man. Good. Well, I'm glad you jumped on. So let's get through this. We got a couple more people that are jumping on now. So I'm gonna jump into this, and we're small enough right now. This is the first time that I've run one of these Zoom calls. I've been running these type of trainings and meetings for years, but this is going to be a fun thing for me as well. So we're small enough right now on this first call that I was going to suggest going on through this here, as you can see on the screen here. If you have something you want to comment, type comment in the chat. You have something you have a question about, type question, just to keep things organized. But we don't have all that many people on here, so let's make this an engaging conversation. And if somebody wants to jump in, if Tony, you have something, or Matt or Sonny, or anybody, feel free to jump in and let's make this a conversation as we go through. And it's my mission to add some value here. So Pat and I are going to jump into this, and I think that there's going to be a real value exchange here. So I'm excited for everybody that jumped on. So rolling into it, here's what we're going to cover. If you have something to take notes with, please do so. If you're driving, obviously be safe. This is being recorded. I'm going to post this on the Facebook group that I had started. I can also send this out to anybody that wants to re-listen back to it, but this is going to be a lot of fun. So I'm excited for everybody that jumped on, and I appreciate your time, especially on a Monday night after I'm sure most of you guys worked all day, and to come in here and just want to add value to yourself and give me a little bit of space to share some good things with you. That doesn't go unnoticed and unappreciated. And I just want to let you all know that I appreciate you all being here tremendously. So first thing we're going to cover is do the work for yourself that you keep doing for others. That's a big thing. That's a big revelation that I've had for myself, and I'll get pretty deep and vulnerable with everybody on here. And it's my hope you guys do the same and you have some good takeaways. Second thing is don't allow yourself to get too comfortable. That's a big trap that people fall into. Number 3, share your wins. Find a really good community of people that are open and vulnerable as well. That's how you grow. And then I always like to wrap up these type of meetings with tactical call to actions. Just make sure that you're leaving this with some tactical steps, things you can execute on, and things you can really start putting into action to start seeing meaningful change in your life. So jumping into it. So first things first, everybody has this. I don't care who you are. If you're breathing, if your heart's beating, you have something inside of you that's absolutely dying to get out, right? As Tony just shared, he's got a side clothing business. He's got a passion for that. Otherwise, he wouldn't be starting it. So my question to everybody on here, and I'd love to have some feedback on this, but when was the last time you did something or created something just for you? Not your employer, not something you're being paid to do, but something you truly put your heart into because it's a passion of yours that truly does light you on fire. What do you guys think?
I could jump in here. Mine wouldn't actually be a physical product, but the last couple of years I got pretty heavy into doing bodybuilding competitions. So that obviously just cost money. Wasn't really making money from it, but what I gained in the long term was just that mindset and the fulfillment and the pride in myself and the work I did every single day, day in and day out for 20 something weeks, right? So that was something I was definitely pretty proud of myself for creating.
For sure. That's awesome. Does anybody else have anything they want to share about that? Something they're doing creatively for themselves, something they do outside of work, something that lights them on fire, something that sparks your soul, as cliche as that might sound?
I've been just starting to measure over the last 2 years, starting to measure everything that is health related, because I know health is important. And so just keeping that consistency, whether or not I report that to anybody else or just to myself, it's been huge. Just to keep that motivation when even no one's watching,
Sure. Everything's connected. And Matt, thanks so much for jumping on, bro. You're somebody that I definitely knew would have done this. So that's awesome. Here's the crazy thing. And this is the revelation I had yesterday. I put this content together at almost 2:00 in the morning yesterday. I got back from a trip to Miami with a good friend of mine who's just on a different level. And I've never been to Miami before. I live in Chicago, formerly from New York. But in terms of just seeing the lifestyle some of these people are living and the freedom they have to make their own choices, it was so eye-opening to me. And coming back from being able to touch and feel that vision and be able to come back and just put this into words was really inspiring and motivating for me. So this was a big revelation I had. When you're paid to do something for somebody else, you're putting in the time, you're putting in the focus, you're getting the job done because somebody is compensating you for that, right? Because otherwise you don't get to keep the job. You wouldn't be a good investment for your employer. What people need to understand, and what everybody on this call, if you work for somebody, if you make $100,000, right? Your employer is not paying you $100,000 so they can make $80,000 from investing in you as an employee, right? They're not losing money because of you in most cases. So when it comes to that, if somebody else is getting a 3 to 5 to 10x return on investment by paying you for your work, why would you not put any sort of that time, even if it's just a fraction because you have bills to pay, you have rent, you have a mortgage? I totally get that. But if you're not going to invest any amount of time in yourself to really develop your own vision, you're going to spend the rest of your life working for somebody else and making them very wealthy and helping them to achieve their goals. And it's amazing to me because that realization I had in my own mind, where it's like, look, I've spent the last 8 years in the solar industry working for other people. And some of you guys on this call might know this, some of you might not, but I just recently walked away from the solar industry after almost 8 years. And that was a really hard thing for me because I don't feel like my identity is where it needs to be at this point. And that's why I'm jumping into all of this, because I want to expand my own belief in myself. And that's a big part of this. So I appreciate you guys being on that journey with me here, but think about that for yourself, right? I'm paid to do a job. And maybe when you first started doing your job, maybe you weren't great at it. Maybe it's something it took you time to develop. But if you put that amount of time into anything on your own, you could be doing something for yourself, whether that's a job, a financial opportunity, it doesn't matter, right? Any amount of time, bodybuilding, like Pat shared with us, Matt going to the gym, taking care of his health, all of that's something that if you invest the time, good things come, and you're seeing that in your employment. Okay? Here's the issue, right? Most people get comfortable. They start making a certain amount of money. They take on certain amounts of responsibilities, whatever the case may be. And they forget about that vision that they once had for their own life, and they settle for what they got. We all know people like that. You might be on this call right now at 7:00 Eastern time because maybe you feel that way. And that's my goal, is to help you shine some light on something so you can look at it and say, maybe this is something I need to address. Change doesn't happen instantly. But the minute you start to recognize that there's room for growth, now you can start to move in a different direction. And there has to be a catalyst for that. And usually it's self-awareness. But here's just a cold hard fact. Everybody here knows this. The number one regret of people in nursing homes is that they did not reach for their full potential, right? If you have the ability right now to go work, right? You have the ability to move your body. You have the ability to take care of yourself. You have the energy and the vitality to be able to go change something about yourself. That's not always going to be the case.
One Georgia, one Atlantic.
Right? So if you're 70,
one,
you're 80 years old, and you're sitting somewhere
North Carolina,
and you can't make that call, that's an issue. So make sure now, and this is the wake-up call, right? This is kind of where my head's at right now, is if you know you have the energy and the ability to change something that you don't like right now, do it. Because one day you might not have that ability. So I wanted to share this. I think this is a super powerful visual. 5 regrets of the dying. Number 1, I wish I had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me. We live in this society, and most of us have had parents and family members and people that they want what's best for us, but maybe their vision of what's possible for you and what your life should be is very different than what you believe it should be. And that's totally cool. But you don't want to get to a point in your life where you're like, hey, this is not the life that I chose for myself at all. That's a scary place to be. And if you've ever met somebody like that, regret is not something I ever want to live with. I would rather fail miserably going after my own vision for my life than succeed at achieving somebody else's vision of my life. No, number 2, I wish I hadn't worked so hard. That's a big thing. I'm a workaholic, and that's a big part of why I pulled myself back from what I was doing. But I would also clarify number 2. I wish I hadn't worked so hard for some things I didn't give a shit about. It's important that you recognize the difference between working hard for something you don't care for and working hard for something you do care for, which is called passion, right? That's why I was putting this content together at 2:00 in the morning last night, because I needed to get it out of me, right? That was the passion that drove this. And again, I'm grateful that everybody even cared enough to be on this call right now and hopefully absorb some of that. Number 3, I wish I had the courage to express my feelings, right? If you don't like what you're doing and you're kind of just swallowing that pride for a consistent paycheck or whatever, and you're justifying to yourself that it's okay, be a little bit more aware about how you're feeling about certain things, because you have the ability to change that. Number 4, I wish I had stayed in touch with my friends. That's a big one. Make sure that you have good people with you along the way. You don't want to get so busy and tied up chasing a vision that might not even be yours that you look back and you got nobody with you. You always want to be able to celebrate with close people. Always make time for that. And number 5, I wish I'd let myself be happier. That's a big thing. That's a big realization, especially with COVID. The last 2 years have been a whirlwind for most people. Everybody's life, it got turned upside down. And a lot of people are coming out of this on the other side and realizing maybe things are not what they thought they were, right? Maybe they had a job that they were sacrificing a lot of happiness for and a lot of their time and energy just to figure out during COVID that they were expendable. I've had a bunch of conversations with people that went just like that. Or a relationship that you were in with somebody that when you got stuck in a confined space for a bit during quarantine, maybe you figured out, hey, this is not working. Or maybe it is, and that was the catalyst for you to look at each other and say, maybe we have some things we need to work on here. But biggest thing is put the effort into yourself, right? Again, I just want to clarify. I'm not saying quit your job. I'm not saying your employer's a bad person. None of that. What I'm saying is don't go to work for somebody for 8 to 10 hours a day and then come home and not do anything for yourself. Because Gary Vee says that, right? He said, what's his quote? He says, you're not lazy, you're uninspired. So figure out what inspires you. That's my mission right now. That's why I'm doing this. And I appreciate everybody on here again, jumping in and being part of that journey, because we're all hopefully going to walk away from this call with some realizations that maybe things can change. Maybe I'm not a tree. Maybe I can move in certain ways. So hopefully that helps. Pat, you want to jump in and take this next one, brother?
Perfect. Great job, Brett. So don't let yourself get too comfortable. I can heavily relate to this one. Don't let yourself get too comfortable. Keep developing and expanding your vision of what's possible. It's always good to celebrate big milestones, but don't let celebrating turn to complacency. Personally, yes, awesome, easy transition here. Just to segment into it, you know, the biggest thing is how clear is your vision, right? Can you touch it? Can you feel it? Get yourself around it. Where do you want to live? What is your family like? Where do you want to vacation? What car do you want to drive? What do your investments look like? Who are your closest friends? Are you proud of yourself? And better yet, are you happy? When you're creating a vision for yourself, are you figuring out what's actually going to make you happy? And I think that comes from asking these questions consistently over time and really getting granular with yourself and what you really want. Where I can relate to this the most is, and as he segments this next slide, you know, I got done with college, no idea what I wanted to do. I was a D student, right? I'm sure Tony remembers me from high school. wasn't the best student. You know, I took a job, 100% commission-based door-to-door sales down in Long Island when I was living upstate, and I had no idea that it was actually a door-to-door job. I completely misunderstood what I was going to do, and I slept on my uncle's couch for about 8 months, you know, trying to figure it out. I worked my way up, got to a point where I got extremely, let's say, comfortable, and I lost that vision for myself, right? There wasn't the next step. And, you know, segmenting the slide, there are endless questions you can ask yourself to get clear on what it is you actually want. Don't be afraid to go deep with yourself. You never know what you will end up uncovering. And what I really found myself doing was I had gotten to that next step. I'd gotten my own 2 feet on the ground, and then I got comfortable. As Brett on this call knows, same with Sonny. He was one of my managers. I worked my way up to an ADM. You know, I was making decent money, and I got complacent, right? I didn't finish that vision for myself. I didn't step into my future self of what I wanted. So I got complacent, and that's when things started to fall apart. So, newsflash, you're not just going to wake up one day with the answer. Exactly. It's about being brave enough to take the journey to try and figure it out the way we all have to, trial and error. This is so clear. Keep yourself engaging with people that are reaching for more. It's tough to do it alone. So true. The journey is going to really suck sometimes, but hopefully you have some awesome people walking alongside you to make it easier when it does. This right here is going to segment. I want to call on Sonny Awalt on this call. I know he's listening in. We went to about 3 to 4 years ago with Brett to a Tony Robbins event where we both were doing well at our job. We were, you know, middle tier reps, and then I watched Sonny and myself and Brett go to this event. If everybody in here is familiar with Tony Robbins, he obviously does some pretty outstanding events that are that go pretty deep. Sonny, I remember you telling that this was one of the singular events in your life that got you out of your comfort zone to make you want more out of your life. Can you tell a little bit more about that story?
Yeah, it was just a complete mindset upgrade. Basically, the way I was thinking, the way I was used to life. You know, I wasn't really into all that like motivational stuff, but it was just like totally different way of thinking. And like, you know, to go off this last bullet point, you guys were there doing it with me. So it was like, you know, we were all growing together at that one point. Felt pretty nice.
And
It's
you
awesome.
went from what, a bottom rep to one of the top reps in the entire company?
Oh yeah, instantly. It was like right after. It was like a snap of the fingers. I actually made on lead generation. I made $16,000 in a month without even selling anything.
That's so cool.
It's insane.
That's awesome. Congratulations, Sonny, man. And I'm grateful for you, man. I'm grateful that I was there to be able to experience that with you, and you did all the work yourself. And it's not that the opportunity changed. It's just your vision of what was possible for you changed. And that's exactly what we're driving at with this, right? It's being able to put that in, because that's a perfect example. If Sonny made $5,000 a month on average before he went to that Tony Robbins event, and then he realized how to shift his mind, and then the following month he made $16,000, obviously the opportunity was the same, but his perception of what's possible for himself, as he put it, the mindset upgrade, that's what changed. His clarity of vision changed. And that's what I've always preached to myself and everybody around me, is always be clear about your vision. Because the only way to avoid complacency, guys, is to be able to get clear on your vision, right? And I've never been a vision board guy. I've never been somebody that sat down and really write out my goals. And when I started to become that person, and I started to be able to see it, your mind can't tell the difference between something you're visualizing and something that's actually, it's something that's tangible and real. And I'll give you an example. If you were to be able to think to yourself right now, you close your eyes and you envision that you just won $20 million in the lottery, and you really felt that, you'd feel that excitement in your stomach. you'd feel that like possibility in your mind of I could go buy this, or I could do this, or I could, I can help this person, I could do this, right? That feeling is literally possible just from your own, from your own mindset, right? You really can trick yourself in a way to feel like you're already on the path to getting to where you want to go. And that's a big part of it. You got to get yourself psyched up. You have to get your vision clear, because if your vision is not clear, and it's not just what do I want, it's the questions here. What is my family like? Where do my kids go to school? What vacations do we take together? How long are we there? What is our hotel room like? How many rooms does it have? How many investments do we have? How many franchises? We have Derek Landino on this call, good friend and mentor of mine. He's big into the franchise world. How many franchises do I want to own that are paying me X amount of reoccurring revenue? What are my managers like in those franchises? What are my partners like? What am I doing to invest in myself? What books am I reading? Right? Ask yourself those questions, not just, hey, what's my vision? You're only going to get out of life how deep you're willing to go. Too many people are surface level. Go deeper than that. Peel back the layers. Really get to know yourself on a personal level. That's how you can go from where you are now to where you want to be. I promise you. Okay? So don't let yourself get too comfortable. From here, Pat, do you want to talk through this one?
Sure. I mean, this speaks for itself. I mean, when you're reading this, one of these lines has security, free food, free shelter, and free medical care. The other has no guarantees as to the quality of his life or security. Which one of these would you rather be? I think this sounds what we're all going through today, especially with COVID. A lot of people being able to take care of. You can find that comfort, but are you really gaining that fulfillment on being on your own and really growing into your own self?
100%. Right. Here's the thing. We're all sold this bag of goods, especially if you're an employee of somebody, or you've been down that road, or wherever you're at in life, right? If you have good friends or family members, or somebody that's talking to you about maybe some of their, fears or struggles, everybody's sold, go be the line on the left, right? Go put yourself in a certain hourly position with somebody, go take your health insurance, your benefits. I've interviewed, recruited probably 10,000 salespeople in my career. And the biggest part of the conversation where you figure out if somebody's willing to bet on themselves or not is the minute you get into compensation.
Yep.
Because everybody wants to talk. Everybody wants the ability to get to the highest levels of their life, but they also need a safety blanket. And usually you don't get one with it. Usually you can't get both together. Right? So that's the moment you start to figure out, is this person willing to bet on themselves? And ask that same question about you. Right? What guarantees am I holding on to that really don't give me that much comfort, or are keeping me in my cage, that if I just took a bit of a step back and took a little bit of a risk, I could be that lion on the right? Think about that. Again, just a little bit of a mental shift for you to understand things are possible. And again, I'm not expecting anybody to get off this call and totally flip their life 180 degrees, but these are small incremental thoughts that over time, they're going to do something for you. And it's just a matter of, now we plant them, you water them, and you see what happens. But be open to the idea of the possibility of change. That's what personal development and being involved in these type of coaching opportunities and running these meetings have done for me. It just moves your mindset a little bit to a point where new possibilities become real. So share your wins, right? The biggest thing you can do, and everybody that's on this call right now or listening back to this recording at a future date, you're doing that because you see something else for yourself. You know that there's more out there. So share your wins, but most importantly, celebrate others. There is more than enough to go around. There is more than enough for everybody. The universe does not know scarcity. We live in a place that is ever expanding. Think about that. The universe literally is ever expanding. And we are a small little dot in the midst of a vast universe. And some of us, our biggest concerns are scarcity, that there's not enough. That logically does not make sense. So understand and practice an attitude of abundance. It will change your entire life. Get yourself into a committed growth community. If you're having a hard time living in abundance,
if you're having a hard time believing that there is enough for everybody out there and that there's opportunities galore for you, you need to surround yourself with people that feel that way so you begin to feel that way as well. You are the people you surround yourself with. I promise you that. And here's the biggest thing, and I learned this lesson when I first invested in coaches probably about 10 years ago. High-level people do not give their time away for free. And if they did, you would never take it as seriously as you should. The financial investment you make in a coach is the reason you take it seriously. I promise you that. So if you're an employee and you're getting a paycheck, your employer is investing in you. And that's why if you're an employer, you've interviewed people, you're a manager, you've managed people, you've probably had the feeling that you care more about somebody else's success than they do about their own, because you're the one financially investing in them, or you're putting your reputation on them. So you're invested. Surround yourself with people that are investing in themselves. Find yourself a coach. Find somebody that can hold you accountable to the person that you know you're meant to be. They're not going to have all the answers for you. Every coach that I've invested in, they're never really giving me tactical advice about how to go do something. I know what I have to do, just like most of you do as well. Where most people fall off is the accountability to what you know you have to be doing. And when you're part of a community of people, that's where you hold yourself accountable. So take that part seriously. That's a really big thing if you're struggling with accountability. Number 2, don't be afraid to publicly talk about your wins and losses. You have to be comfortable being vulnerable. The world of social media is so surface level that everybody is just advertising what they feel like is, you know, what's the definition of success by today's standards, right? Like, I got this watch, I have this car, here's my apartment, here's my home. All of that stuff is great, right? I'm always the biggest fan for people. But when it comes to the posts about you truly being vulnerable, right? Like, I shaved my head a couple of weeks ago. I was deathly insecure. I would not take photos without a hat on. The lighting had to be right. That was an insecurity that I lived with for going on 10 years. And then all of a sudden one day, I said, fuck it, I'm done. I am done hiding from something that I'm uncomfortable from, and I'm not going to let it define me anymore. And I made one social media post after I shaved my head, and I had 400 people or so view it, and nearly 50% of those people messaged me and they're like, dude, that was so inspiring. Thank you for sharing your insecurity and how you overcame it. And that was I had some of the most real conversations with those people, because if you put out there that you're vulnerable and it's from the heart, you're going to get back so many people commenting and engaging with you, because that's what they want. That's what they want to do as well. There's so much comparison that happens on social media in fake ways. But if you can be the person that's vulnerable, right? If you can be the person that doesn't care about what people think, and it's really hard. But if you can be that person, you have no idea the amount of people that are waiting and watching for somebody to be that person so they can get permission to be that person as well. And there's no better feeling than being the catalyst for somebody else to step into more of who they truly are. And I truly feel like that's the point of life, is to help other people become more of who they're meant to be. And if everybody just had that mindset, if everybody just operated that way, this world would be a much more beautiful place. So long story short on that, that's not something that happens like this overnight. It takes time. It's like building muscle. But the more you do it, the more comfortable you'll get doing it, just like anything else. So take action, right? If there's something you've been hesitating doing, make a post about it. Tell somebody about it. Have a conversation. Watch what happens when you're vulnerable with people, how they give it back to you. And that's when real connection happens. One of the biggest things you're going to see, and this is every single community I've got myself in, the higher ones that I've paid for, the ones that were a bit more exclusive, you see this even more. But you'll notice every one of these people you look up to, they deal with the same fears and the same insecurities that you do. And if you join a good community, if you get around the right people, they're going to be so open and vulnerable with you about that. And what that does for you as a person is it makes you realize that it's okay. And what you'll notice, the higher up you climb in terms of people's accolades and what they've accomplished, the more fearful they are that they're going to be exposed, because a lot of those people, they don't even know how they got there. For them, it feels like luck. They don't realize that the years and years of hard work that they've put in and the discipline they've created, that's just who they are as people. And one of my favorite quotes is, you can't read the jar from inside the label. Let me say that again. You can't read the label from inside the jar. I said that backwards. You can't read the label from inside the jar, meaning you have to get outside of yourself to really understand who you are. And that level of self-awareness takes time. But when you surround yourself with people that are making that a priority, now all of a sudden, it starts to feel more possible. So make sure you understand that it's not the absence of that fear. It's not that some people don't feel insecurity. It's not that some people don't feel fear. It's that they've gotten themselves to a point where they can take action despite that. Because the longer you just sit in your fear and the longer you hesitate to take action, the harder and harder it becomes for you to do what you know you need to do. Okay? That's paralysis analysis. And in those communities, that's where those conversations of opportunity happen. And those are the conversations you want to be part of. All the greatest business deals, the greatest job opportunities, the greatest relationships, they happen through conversations and connections. You're trying to buy a great piece of real estate. You're not finding that in most cases on some commercial website. You're finding that through relationships you've built with somebody in the industry or a broker or somebody, right? Or somebody that's, looking for a relationship. You tend to meet a lot of these right people just by being in the right place at the right time and putting yourself in a position to go find these people. For example, one of my coaches that I'm working with now, he's a phenomenal guy. And he shared something with me. He's like, dude, I don't drink. So if I'm trying to find a girlfriend or a boyfriend, or if I'm in a trying to find a relationship, I'm not going to a club, because I'm not going to meet somebody there in most cases that doesn't drink and doesn't like that party life. Some of us are trying to find the right person in the wrong place. Think about that. Where is the person that you want to be connected to spending the most time, and how do you put yourself there? And are those places that those people are hanging out, are they free? Or are those people you want to be with investing in themselves already? And if you make a similar investment, now all of a sudden you've paid to play. A little mindset shift. Think about that. And that goes into my next quote. You can't pour from an empty cup. Some of us are so empty, and not because there's no substance. It's because you give and give and give and give, and you're not getting back as much as you're giving. And then when the right opportunities do present themselves to you, you don't have anything left in the tank. And that's why investing in coaching, that's why being around the right people, finding your niche makes all the difference in the world. Because when you're in that flow state and when you're around the right people, big things start to feel possible. But just make sure you're not the only one pouring out of your cup. Make sure you're getting poured into as well. Okay? And it shouldn't just be negativity. Be aware of what's being poured into your cup. Make sure it's positivity. Make sure it's growth. Make sure it's abundance, because that will make the biggest difference in your life. So now let's talk about taking some action. And then I'd love to open this up for everybody and just have some good dialogue. So here's what I would walk away from this with, and I'm sure everybody has a million different takeaways of their own, but allow yourself some time this week to be creative. Sit down with a pen and paper and just see what comes up. Take notes. Be present. Put the phone away. Put the computer away. Turn the TV off. Sit down. Take notes. Ask yourself questions. Journal. Go deeper. What do I want from my life? Why do I want that? How would I feel when this happens? What would this person, what would my best friend, my spouse, my significant other, what would my life with them be like if this were to happen? Go deeper, peel back the onions, figure yourself out. It's going to take time. It's a journey. Everything in life is going to be trial and error, but don't just settle for where you are now. I promise you there's more. Number 2, don't be afraid to publicly talk about your wins and losses. Some of you are, you look at it and say, oh, I'm bragging or this or that, or I don't have anything to talk about. My life's not all that great. It's bullshit. Put yourself out there. There's 7 billion people in this world. There's 2 billion people on Instagram. I promise you, if you keep putting out enough of the right content and you keep being vulnerable and you keep being real, you will connect to like-minded people and amazing things can happen as you grow your network. Number 3, spend some time getting clear on your vision, right? We talked about that one and tied that one into step number 1. Ask yourself some questions and put pen to paper. Don't write out 3 or 4 words. Go deep. When I journal, I write 3-4 pages of notes sometimes on one question, and then look at where your tangent goes, and then ask yourself a follow-up question and another follow-up question and another follow-up question. You're never going to figure out the world around you until you start to figure out yourself. Number 4, invest in yourself. Get yourself into a genuine growth community. I want you to really take stock of where you're at right now and what the conversations around you the majority of time are. Are they positive or are they negative? Here's what you have to understand about the human mind. The human brain is a 10,000-year-old piece of survival software. It's meant to keep you safe. That's why if you think, the majority of times when you go on autopilot, you go negative. It takes work to be positive. It doesn't take work to be negative. And that's where you need to be aware of the conversations happening in your own mind and the conversations happening around you, because you are subconsciously programming yourself by letting yourself go on autopilot to be risk adverse and be negative. And it's really hard to make positive changes when you're in a negative mindset and you're surrounded by negativity. That's why I invest my own hard-earned money into coaching programs and into these communities, because people are being intentional about being positive. And sometimes that just makes the biggest difference. So from that, I've created a Facebook page. Every single company I've ever worked for, one of my biggest strong suits is creating culture. It's getting on team communication apps and getting people excited to have a plan from the night before for the morning, to wake up. And I like to say, win your morning. Make sure you're being intentional about having a great morning, because a great morning rolls over into a great day. So if you're not having those type of conversations, or you feel like, going on Instagram and looking at some stuff, maybe you're getting lost in the sauce a little bit and you want something a little bit more personal, I'd encourage you to go on Facebook and join the group. It's free. I'm not charging anybody for any of this. I want this for myself, and I would love for other people that are interested to join this as well and engage. But don't come on and just sit back and observe. If you truly want change to happen in your life and you want to be around good people, jump in. Don't wait for permission. Start setting the pace and watch what happens. If you want to go a little bit deeper with me one-on-one, jump on my Calendly. Calendly.com, Grow2Gold, schedule 30 minutes. I'm more than happy. My schedule's set up on there to jump on and have any sort of follow-up conversation with you. My goal at this point in my life, and I live and die by the quote from Zig Ziglar: if you help enough people get what they want, you'll always get what you want. I genuinely feel like I've been through a lot.
and I've helped a lot of people achieve a lot of goals. And it is when I'm the happiest in my own life. And I would love the opportunity to serve you as well. So if you have some goals, if you're trying to figure out your personal vision, if you have some habits you're trying to break or build and you need some accountability, schedule some time. Let's have a conversation. Let's see if it's something that could make sense. So that's all that I got. I see the chats popping up a little bit here, but just in closing, surround yourself with winners, with those people who will force you to raise your own game. Because if you're not surrounded by those type of people, you're going to just casually walk through the rest of your life, and you might accomplish some awesome things, and that's all good. But there's so much power in attacking your day with intention. And there's so much power in being surrounded by other people that have the same vision. Because I truly feel like, and just in closing, I truly feel like we're all here to leave a legacy. Every single one of us is here to have a lasting impact. We're not here to just survive. So to do all of that, and to know that you have people in your corner that are there to support you, because you're not always going to be motivated. I don't wake up motivated every single morning. Anybody that tells you they do is full of shit. But the days that you wake up and you're feeling less than your best, if you don't have a community of people to go to, that's when you're going to hit the wall.
Mm-hmm.
And it's about being diversified, right? Every great investor has multiple forms of income. They have multiple different investments. So they're in a sense indestructible. And that's a whole separate conversation. Surround yourself with other people that are investments that when you're not feeling it, you have them to back you up. Because it's as Warren Buffett says, right? If you have one form of income, you're only one step away from broke. So if you only have your own voice and you wake up in that morning and you're not feeling good, you're going to compromise and the whole rest of your day is shit. So find yourself a community of people that can hold you accountable to being the person that you know you're meant to be, because you owe it to yourself and you owe it to the people around you. So that's all that I got. Thank you guys so much for jumping on. I want to open this up for comments, for Q&A, for feedback. And thank you guys again for sticking with me on this one. This was my first run through with this, and I really do appreciate everybody. So anybody have anything they want to jump in and share, comments, feedback, questions? Anybody have any aha moments or anything that stood out for them? I'd love to hear from you guys.
I just want to say, growing throughout my solo career, working with you and a couple others on this call, who you surround yourself with is by far one of the most important aspects of growing throughout your day and throughout your life. That phrase, surround yourself with energy boosters rather than energy suckers, right? So I think involving yourself in a community such as this, an hour a night out of your week, is something that just adds so much value. And I had a crappy Monday today. Let's call it for what it is. A lot of things went wrong. And this call has now had me writing down my action plan for the rest of the week.
That's
right
awesome.
then and there, I took one call, and that's what got me.
That's awesome. Thank you, Pat. Anybody else have anything they want to jump in? I'd love to hear from. We got 7 people on this call.
I see Matt Collins join the group.
Yeah, Matt's the man.
I'd say for me personally, that last slide where it's surround yourself with the people that are winning, that was huge for me, because the group of people I was always hanging out with, they weren't always like serious about things. They were just kind of like joking around, doing like mischief stuff, going out partying, stuff like that. But as soon as I changed that, I started hanging out with like people that were actually like working on themselves, doing like seminars. I thought it was like the weirdest thing, but the more I hung out with them, the more it became normal for me. And then in my life, I just started seeing things go like so much better in every category. So I'd say like that's my biggest takeaway. Just continue to do that.
That's awesome, Sonny. Yeah, man. And I've seen you grow and develop and break out of that cocoon, and become that butterfly, for lack of a better analogy. And you really work through a lot of personal stuff to become that person, man. And that's 100% factual. And if everybody had, because it's scary, right? It's scary to step out and try and be somebody and be part of a community that you don't know if you're going to fit in with, and, you know, maybe there's going to be people that are further ahead or more qualified or whatever, but you are who you surround yourself with, right? If you're in a personal development group, or you're, you know, you're trying to get your health and fitness up, or you're trying to make more money, right? If you hang out with 5 millionaires, you're way more likely to be the 6th. If you hang out with 5 people that are healthy and in great shape and prioritize their health and fitness, you're more likely to be the 6th. So if you look around your circle and you're not inspired by it, you don't have a circle, you have a cage. So that's awesome feedback, Sonny. And again, bro, I really appreciate you jumping on this call in real time, man. Thank you. Does anybody else have any feedback? I'd love to hear from some different people as well.
Yeah, I got one thing. So there's this quote from Zig Ziglar. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but
Sure.
he says, if you aim at nothing, you will hit every time. And that's like his biggest quote. And my problem up here, since I'm in the middle of basically bumfuck nowhere, almost to Canada at this point, there's not a whole lot of motivated people. This is like the land of the lazy and lackadaisical up here. So
Sure.
I mean, this thing is so cool to do, and I appreciate you taking the time to do this and throw this all together, especially at 2 a.m. Yesterday morning or whatever it was. But I'm curious where you pull motivation from when you kind of run out of resources. Like how do you stay motivated? How do you get motivated? Like how do you do it?
Yeah, great question. So, I mean, you can ask Pat. I probably call Pat 4 or 5 times a day. You know, you got to get yourself to a point, man, where if Pat's in your life, you know, you can reach out to me at any point with this stuff, man. It's you look at the ocean of Instagram, right? Of some of these social media platforms, and it can feel a bit overwhelming, right? Where it's like, I see Instagram photos with quotes and motivation, and is this person trying to sell me something? Is this, right? Like, and it almost feels overwhelming, and you take a step back. But if you start building connections, man, and you really jump in there, because social media, most people use it totally wrong. And this is what I'm learning from my coach right now. And this is where I was at. You scroll through, you compare yourself to other people, you look at people's stuff, you catch up, and you jump off. But the right way to use social media is to look at the people that are engaging in some of the pages that you like. So for example, if you have a quote page that you follow, right? You just mentioned a quote by Zig Ziglar. If you follow quote pages and motivational stuff, you might not have the easiest time connecting with the moderator or the account owner that is that person. Sure. But if you look at their most recent post and you look at the comments and you see somebody didn't just write like, oh, fire emoji or love this, but you see somebody took the time to type out, great quote, here's a personal feedback, and you click on their page and you see this person has a couple hundred followers, a few thousand followers. They're me. They're those guys that are trying to put themselves out there and develop a community because they feel the same way you do.
Sure.
So if you don't have those people in your immediate network that you grew up with, you weren't fortunate enough to be in that, there's nothing stopping you from using social media to truly connect with people and build relationships. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah.
Like, dude, I was on, so in one of the coaching groups that I signed up for, and the other thing is invest your money, man. Invest in yourself. If you're not spending money on yourself, I invest 10% of my income into personal development every single month. If you're not investing in yourself for whatever reason, you know, that's something I would highly encourage you do. But go figure out, man, you know, there's so many amazing podcasts, Ed Milet, Andy Frisella, Lewis Howes, right? There's so much good stuff out there that's free. And being motivated is great, but where most people fall short, brother, is the accountability side. Because you can listen to podcasts till you're blue in the face. But if you're not going to take action on it, then you're just motivated. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's a great point. Makes total sense.
So there's so much stuff you can do, bro, but it mostly comes down to just the level of action, if that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
So awesome, dude. Anything else? I'd love to, you know, any follow-up questions to that or anything else anything else on your mind?
I wrote down a number of questions, but that was kind of the umbrella question, I guess.
Cool.
Yeah, man, that's super helpful.
Dude, join the Grow2Gold Facebook page on there, man. Me and Pat are going to be on there posting some stuff and really making sure this is a community that you can be a part of. You know, we've done, your income will never exceed your habits is one of my favorite quotes. Anytime I've created any sort of culture, team community, and we've in a sales format, and every morning we have people waking up, posting photos at the gym, posting motivational podcast photos, posting photos doing the job. All of a sudden, the end of the month rolls around and we've broken records. And it's not that our tactics have changed. What's changed is the work we're putting in before we get out there.
Sure.
What's changed is the level of preparation from the night before. Because if you're waking up and just hoping you feel good and motivated, luck isn't a strategy, bro. You got to make sure you have a plan. So hopefully that makes sense.
Totally. Yeah, 100%.
Something I want to add really quick is just
Please,
iteration.
Matt.
Just iteration. So fail forward, fail often, and then iterate. Like, you know, you make a plan, you execute the plan, it doesn't work the way you thought, you just iterate, you just change it. It's like, it's just feedback. It's a feedback loop. And that's something I've learned recently, and I just feel like it's valuable to share just based on what he was talking about. You set a plan, you assume a few things, you don't know all the variables, you iterate, you do it again, you iterate, and you do it again. And you're not failing unless you're dead.
100%. 100%. And Matt, that is awesome feedback, bro. Thank you so much for jumping on. So
yeah, it's good to see you guys doing this too. It's awesome.
We're going to do this every Monday. And I said to Pat before we jumped on here, if it's just Pat and I talking to each other, let it be. But you guys are part of the inaugural call right now. So you guys have a special place in my heart. And I really appreciate all of you for that. And
if
this
we
is
put
something,
if we put our emails in, can we get an invite to next week just on the recurring side of things?
100%. And that's what I was just about to say. So I'm going to continue to post these. We'll do this every Monday. If this time slot works well for everybody, I'm going to trial and error this and kind of figure out what works and just fail forward. And I'd love to open this up and have some of you guys run some content. You know, I want this to be an opportunity and a platform for everybody to jump on and start sharing value, because that's how you grow. Each one teach one. That's how I've always believed in leadership. And from there, then you create an army of people that are now self-sustaining and creating ripple effects in their own communities. And now you've impacted 1 billion people. So that's what I'm hoping. This is something where I want to do this every Monday, the end of a Monday, figure out how the day went, set the plan up for the week ahead. And then, you know, maybe on Friday we jump back on and we do something tactically and we talk about how the week is gone and, you know, some valuable nuggets that were implemented from the Monday call. So I'm excited about all this. I have no idea where it's going to go, and I completely love that. And this is going to just be a fun journey, and I hope you guys decide to take it with us. And if there's one closing topic from this that I really hope everybody took from this is grow your network. And don't be afraid to invest in yourself. You know, billionaires spend millions to stay billionaires, right? Millionaires spend hundreds of thousands to become millionaires. Millionaires, people, there's always investments that are required. And the higher up you climb, the more you have to be okay with investing, right? And if you don't have much to invest, that's totally cool. Invest your time and energy, like I was sharing with Tony here, to go find people within a community that are engaging already. And that's totally free. But put yourself around people that are trying to do more with their lives and watch what happens to your own. Because you can only go so far with your own motivation and discipline. You need to have great people on your team, and you need to build a team that can hold you accountable to the bigger vision you have for yourself and your family. And that's it. And that's what I want to continue to push. And I'm grateful for anybody that decides to take that journey with us, because I know we're going to accomplish some really cool things. So this went exactly an hour.
Hey, Brett.
What's up, Derek?
Great job. I just want to say great job. I'm here for support. I want to be able to say I was here on your first ever podcast.
Love you, bro.
You've got tons and tons of followers and you're killing it. So great job, man. You got to start somewhere. So awesome.
Thank you, bro. You're somebody I look up to tremendously, man. I appreciate you jumping on here. So guys, thank you so much for your time. Have an awesome rest of your night. Hopefully this sets you up for some good stuff. Write out a little execution list for yourself for tomorrow. If you're not waking up with a plan, you're already waking up reactive instead of proactive. Write down what time you're going to wake up in the morning, right? If you have an alarm, great, write it down anyway. Write down what the first thing you're going to do when you wake up is. Maybe it's write down 3 things you're grateful for. You know, meditate, go to the gym, whatever, eat healthy.
try and get as many wins in as you can tomorrow and watch how the whole rest of your day's momentum completely shifts. So wake up proactive. Have a great morning, everybody. And thank you guys for jumping on this first podcast. Thank you so much for the support. Have an awesome evening. If anybody wants to chat further, feel free to reach out to me. But love you guys. And thank you guys so much for jumping on. Take care, guys.